Hi and welcome to my channel on YouTube. My name is Pawan, and for the past few months some of you have been seeing me post guitar chord lessons for Bollywood songs. Thank you for all your feedback and suggestions. Now some of you have been asking me questions like how do you know which chord to play and how do you find chords on your own for songs and so on and so forth. Now this is really a very vast subject, and there are two ways you can go about this. You can learn all of the theory which is there behind music, and when it comes to Bollywood songs, for playing chords, you not only need to understand Western musical theory on scales and chords, but there are things which are specific to songs in Bollywood, and for that you need to have good understanding, or a basic understanding at least, of the rags and how to build harmonies for songs which are based on Indian melody patterns. Now, this is a vast subject, and there's a lot which you need to know, and I don't intend to take you through all of that theory. What I'm planning to do is a series of lessons, starting with this one today, where I'll take you through some very basic concepts, some very basic rules which you need to know. Of course, rules are meant to be broken, and music being an art, it's all based on the expressions which the composer wants to create, and there's no such thing as being absolutely right about this chord and absolutely wrong. But there are some basic rules which you need to know, and I'll try and share those with you. And then what I'm going to do is, instead of taking you through a lot of theory, I'll take popular songs and try and show you, try and get you to understand why those chords are being played in those songs, and which are the chords you could have played and which chords you couldn't have played, and things like that. Hopefully you will find these lessons interesting, and as we go along, I'll post more and more lessons based on your suggestions and feedback. So coming now to the basic rules. Now, there are three rules which I think you should be aware of in order to be able to pick up chords easily. Even without these rules, you can still manage to do it with a lot of practice and training your ear and so on and so forth. But it would be nice if you can understand these rules. They're very straightforward. First thing is, you must know the key of the song, and this is not easy for beginners. But once you start getting used to playing chords and playing with songs, you'll know by ear what is the key. And if you don't, you can always check and on the internet and do research and be able to find out, at least initially, so that you get used to those different patterns. And then going forward, once you listen to a song, even if you've never heard it before, you will find that you'll be able to pick up the key very easily. So by key I mean the first note of the scale. So the song could be in C, it could be in C sharp, it could be in D, and so on and so forth. As you know, there are 12 notes. So if you know the key of the song, it'll make things much more easier. The second thing which you need to know is the scale. So the key and the scale are frequently used interchangeably, but they're not the same things. So the scale is the series of notes which are used for that song. Typically, a scale has 7 notes. And the most common is the major scale. So if you're familiar with major scale, the notes are, if you're playing in the key of C, the notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. If you're playing in the scale of G major, the notes are G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. And if you are familiar with Hindustani music, they're always known as Sa, Re, Ga, Ma, Pa, Dha, Ni. So you need to know the scale of the song, and there are so many types of scales. The most commonly used scales are the major scales and the natural minor scales. And so for example, A minor would have the same notes as C major, and the notes are A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. If you are familiar with Hindustani music, the notes are Sa, Re, Komal Ga, Ma, Pa, Komal Dha, Komal Ni, and Sa. So you need to know the scales, and in Bollywood songs there are so many different types of scales which are used. Some are very particular with the kind of situation and the kind of emotion and the kind of expression which the musician wants to create for the scene in the movie. And we will do those examples in the lessons going forward, and I'll take you through all the kinds of scales which are commonly used in Bollywood songs. And but we'll start off with the major and minor scales, and we'll use very simple examples where the notes which are in the song are only the ones in that scale. So for example, if you're playing the scale of C, the song would typically be using only the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. There would be songs where you'll have notes outside of the scale, and we'll take those examples as well. Sometimes they're intentional and they stay for the entire duration of the song. Sometimes they are accidental and they come just for a short moment. So we'll come to those examples, but for now, let's go back to the rules I was talking about. The two rules I've just discussed, or the two concepts I've just discussed, are number one, knowing the key of the song. Number two is knowing the scale of the song. So you should know whether the song is in, let's say, for example, C major, or is it in D minor, or is it in G minor, and so on. Once you know these two things, of course, the third and most important thing is you should be able to pick up the notes of the song, of the melody. Because when you want to play a chord at a particular point in time in a song, you need to know what was the note at that point in time. So it doesn't really matter if you are not able to play very well along with the song or in exactly the same speed, but as long as you know that, okay, this was the note at this point in the song where you want to play a chord, that should be sufficient. So the three things you need to know is the note which is being played when you want to play a chord, and you need to know the scale of the song, and you need to know the key of the song. If you know these three things, you should be able to pick up the chords for any song. Now we'll start with some basic examples, and before we go on to that, I'll be taking an example from a major scale today. So before we go on to that, a couple of more things. When you want to play chords in a song, I'm hoping you understand the rhythm patterns which are very commonly used. So you have patterns like 4/4 and 3/4. Most of the songs which we'll be selecting are the ones which have 4/4 or 3/4. We might select some which have more exotic time signatures. But let's take an example of a song which is in 4/4. Typically, you would be playing chords at the beginning of each bar. So you would not be changing chords for every beat in the bar. So if there are 4 beats in a bar, you could theoretically play 4 chords inside the bar, but it would not sound too nice. There are songs where you have 2 chords, maybe 3, maybe even 4 in the same bar. But typically the songs are composed in such a way that the harmonies and the chord arrangements are such that you don't need to change chords more than once in a bar. But there are exceptions, and there are songs in which you have chords changing in the middle of a bar and things like that. Take an example of a song where the chord change is very, very straightforward.